Today I want to talk about the number one thing that people misunderstand about Buddhism, and also the number one most important message of Buddhism, because they're the same thing. And whether or not you believe in Buddhism as a religion or spiritual system, I believe that this number one lesson is universally applicable. Whatever religion you believe in, whatever you believe about life, this is, I think, pretty logically provable as a very important lesson for improving every aspect of being human. So, the number one misconception is a lot of people I talk to who don't know much about Buddhism believe that what it is saying is that you have to detach. You have to, life is suffering, and you have to kind of detach from the human experience to avoid that suffering. So you have to kind of become more stoic, or kind of push away passions, push away, emotion, because if you get too passionate about something, then, that sets you up for suffering in some way. And so there's this misconception that the ideal Buddhist is someone who's kind of super chill and stoic all the time. And a lot of that is a misconception because of how Buddhism has been co-opted in the West and misrepresented, especially Zen Buddhism. So back in the 60s and 70s, the Zen kind of made its way into the public consciousness, and it was used in marketing campaigns, and it was kind of a highly simplified version of it. And so that's why Zen nowadays is kind of synonymous with just being calm and chill and easygoing, and that's what we think of when we say you should be more Zen, right? Like you should just be more calm or stoic. And that's really not a good representation of what Zen Buddhism actually is. So here's what Buddhism is really saying. And this is basically the number one most important thing. If you could distill all of Buddhism into one point, it's basically this. The Buddha, the historical Buddha 2,500 years ago, was concerned with the question of what causes suffering. What is the root cause of all human suffering, and how can we alleviate it? How can we stop everyone from suffering? And so what he discovered after a lot of investigation, trying many different paths, a lot of meditation, self-inquiry, was that the root cause of suffering is clinging too tightly to a certain specific outcome. Another way of putting that is wanting something to be different that you don't actually control. And so, again, the misconception is that what we mean by detachment here is detaching from the human experience, detaching from pleasure, detaching from emotion. But what the Buddha was actually saying is the path to enlightenment, the path to awakening, the path to becoming the best version of yourself, the path to easing your suffering, is to detach from specific outcomes that you can't control. All right? And so if you think about this logically, it's pretty irrefutable, right? Like if you decide, let's say you are a baker, right? And you're going to bake the best cake that you possibly can. You're going to try really hard, and you have a lot of expertise, and you're putting all this effort into baking the most incredible cake possible. And you give this to a customer or a friend or something, and you're watching them take a bite of the cake, and they don't like it, right? If you really tried your best, and if you are, you have some measure of skill here, then whether they like it or not is outside your control. And so if you've clung so tightly to this idea that I have to make the perfect cake so that they will like it, it's all about their reaction. I am letting my happiness be completely dependent on how this person reacts when they take a bite of this cake, right? Then you're setting yourself up for unhappiness and suffering. Because if they don't like it, and that is the gauge of whether you're your efforts were worthy or not, whether you're a good person or not, right? Then it's devastating, right? And and so if instead you decide I'm trying my best and I'm enjoying the journey of creating the cake rather than the destination of this person enjoying it or not. If it's all about the journey, if it's about the moment to moment experience of I'm enjoying crafting this cake, I am fully focused in this moment on my craft, right? Instead of worrying about what the eventual outcome is going to be, then you are not going to suffer. You are going to be enjoying the moment to moment experience of life, of crafting this cake, right? And so you can really apply this to anything. Uh, maybe you want to be really healthy, so you work out every day. You put a lot of time and energy into working out. Cool, right? But then maybe one day you suddenly get sick. Maybe you get hit by a car and you're paralyzed, right? Um, there's so many things that can happen that are outside your control. But if you're clinging so tightly to, the reason why I'm working out is because I have to be the peak of health no matter what. My body always has to be working perfectly. I always have to feel physically amazing, right? You're clinging so tightly to that specific outcome, then you're bound to be disappointed. You're bound to suffer because the nature of the human body is it doesn't last forever. It doesn't last in peak condition forever, right? It's not to say that you shouldn't work out. Like, yeah, of course, the more you work out, the more you take care of yourself, the more you're going to set yourself up for success and increase the odds that your body is going to remain healthy longer. But still, an accident could happen, or you could have some genetic problem, or suddenly your body could be in less good working order, and there's nothing that you could have done about that. And so Buddhism is saying to kind of go with the flow. And okay, here's what's happening. Now there's pain in my body. Now my body is not operating in peak working order. And it just is what it is. Because that is what you can control is your reaction. What you can't control is the actual physical outcome in your body. And so a lot of Buddhism is also about ethics, just doing the right thing because it's the right thing. And so, if you're being kind to someone, the idea is to be kind because that's the right thing to do. It's just good to be a kind person. And it's not about like this kind of misconception of karma, like what goes around comes around. So if I'm kind to them, then they're probably going to be kind. Kindness is going to happen to me in the future. Right, sure, maybe. Maybe not. Right? Maybe you'll just encounter hardship even though you were kind. And sometimes that's just what happens in life. And even so, you should still be kind because A, that's the right thing to do, and B, unless you're a psychopath, if you have been unkind, if you have been unethical, then that's probably going to weigh on you, knowing that you did a wrong thing, and that's going to cause you suffering. And so being kind, just for the sake of being kind, isn't about a certain outcome. You might hope that if I do this charitable act for someone, they are going to appreciate it. They're going to say, wow, you're so amazing, right? They might. But if you're clinging super tightly to that specific outcome and they don't thank you, they don't smile, if you demand that, then you're going to suffer. But if you say, well, I hope they smile, that'd be nice. And if they don't, they don't. Then you're not going to suffer. And of course, it's easier said than done, right? This is not, it's not to say that this is easy, right? That's why this is a continual practice. This is the number one thing in Buddhism that all of the practices are oriented around. So, the Buddha isn't just saying like, it's your fault if you're not going with the flow, right? Oh, it's easy. Just change your thinking. Just be optimistic, right? Just hope for the best and don't be attached if bad things happen, right? He's not saying that. He's saying, no, it is really hard. Like, this is the hardest thing in life. It's such a core skill that everything around meditation and all the specific trainings and techniques in Buddhism, there are many books, many different specific skills and techniques for building in Buddhism that are all oriented around this because it is so difficult. So there is a recognition that this is pervasive throughout life. Like literally, he's saying it is the root cause of all the types of suffering that you might experience. Any type of unpleasantness in life is the result of somehow clinging to a specific outcome. And so that's why all of Buddhism, all these techniques are built around how can you loosen your grip on the outcome? How can you focus more on the things that you can control and focus less on the things that you can't control? Because most things in life you can't control. But what you can control is your reaction, how you train yourself to be more resilient, how you train yourself to allow different emotions to wash over you. Some emotions are going to be a lot of joy. Some emotions are going to be sadness. Sometimes it's going to be anger. And just welcoming them in and examining them, being curious about them instead of judging them. Instead of judging this is a good emotion or a bad emotion. It's just, here's the emotion that I'm with now. And so Buddhism is not just about being stoic and being chill and calm all the time. It's about being with the truth of what is happening right now. And sometimes it means, wow, there's a lot of grief right now. I'm going to be with that. I'm going to let myself sob. Sometimes it's anger. Wow, there's rage right now. I'm going to let myself squeeze my fists. I'm going to let myself press against the ground. I mean, I'm not going to let myself throw something at someone, right? But I'm going to let myself feel this anger and let it be expressed in my body. I'm going to be real with it. I'm going to examine it. I'm going to be curious about it. And then, oh, here's joy. I'm going to let myself fully feel joy. Wow, I'm going to let myself just laugh and smile big, right? And so Buddhism is really the opposite of having to be chill all the time or having to be stoic all the time. True Buddhism is about being with the fullness of your humanity, being with the truth of whatever is naturally arising in you in that moment. Make sense? So, the core tip here is to practice noticing whenever you're clinging tightly to a certain outcome. And it's not to say you're not allowed to have goals. Sure, you want to make more money. You want to get a promotion. You want to find a great partner. You want to have kids. Whatever your goal is, cool. Yeah, you can want that. But if you cling too tightly that it has to be this way, it has to look this certain way, it has to end up exactly in this way that I'm picturing it, then you're probably going to suffer. But if you say, I hope that something like this happens, I'm kind of moving in this general direction of trying to get this type of thing, and it might happen, it might not. Maybe it won't happen for a while. Maybe I'll have some false starts, right? But I'll kind of keep moving toward this. I'll keep orienting toward this thing that I'm wanting, toward this thing that feels ethically aligned with my values, aligned with who I want to be in the world, aligned with the type of life that I want to be living. Then great. Keep moving toward that. Right? And it might be a winding path with ups and downs. That's the nature of reality. So I hope that helps, and I encourage you to practice as much as you can throughout the day, noticing, am I holding too tightly? And you can notice physical tightness in your body. Can I loosen? Can I say, I want this to happen, but it might not? And that has to be okay too. All right. I hope you have a nourishing day. I'd love to hear from you in the comments.